What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the All About the Birds Eagles post-game show, live from our outside patio areas. The Eagles fall to the Chiefs 42-30. Jeff, apparently while you and I were sitting outside talking, we a score happened, so I got to figure out what happened there. So, I mean, look, it was exactly what we thought it was going to be. Right, let's call it like it was. We knew that the Chiefs were a better team than the Eagles. I thought the Eagles held in for as long as they could, but then overall it shook out the way we thought it was going to.
Yeah, look, we knew going to this game it was going to be a tough task at hand for our Philadelphia Eagles. Even though the scoreboard doesn't show a victory, morally, I kind of feel this team has to hold their heads up high a little bit. Look, we stuck into it until towards the end of it. It could have been a lot worse from what we've seen the last couple of weeks from this team. And I felt they kept it in there a bit. Say there's still a lot of issues to be fixed. If it wasn't for the whole red zone issues, we might be talking about a completely different game right now. We might be talking about an Eagles victory, or we didn't have 3 touchdowns called back on penalties. So it's definitely a sour taste in your mouth because you don't know what could have been, but hey, a loss is a loss. Time to move on to the next one.
Do you know what the touchdown that we missed was?
I do not. I was sitting outside.
It was a Greg Ward touchdown catch.
Greg Ward? That's ridiculous.
It was a Greg Ward touchdown catch.
And it doesn't matter for those gambling addicts because the Eagles still didn't cover the spread. They were 7
They did not. They did not cover the spread now. Look, I mean, we find out before the game that our offensive line is battered, beaten, and bruised again. Lane Johnson not playing. I think overall the offensive line played okay. I am very concerned about the penalties on both sides of the ball. I think the penalties on both sides of the ball. You know, you had points coming off of the board, points being added to the board. I mean, it was problematic.
And some of those are some drive killers for you, especially on the offense side of the football. In the red zone, first and goal, you have a false start, you have a holding penalty. It kills momentums of drives. And on the defense side of the ball, you can't give them free yards. Those become huge momentum shifters. Josh Sweat, I understand he's trying to time the snap, but jumping off sides before the snap is gone on a 3rd and 1, giving them an automatic first down to continue a drive. The Chiefs showed you that they're the more well-balanced, prepared football team out there, especially offensively. They were, 5 of 6 in the red zone. They were 7 of 8 on 3rd down. Mm-hmm. They were moving the football at will on our defense. And kudos to the Eagles offense. They stuck into it. They stuck around as long as they could, but mistakes, like we brought up on the pregame show today at the West End, the Eagles have been their own worst enemy when it comes to decision-making, penalties, lack of execution. If they can fix those things up, and it's one of those things, who's to blame? Yeah, Sirianni has the bulk of the blame, but Jalen Hurts, he played well today overall, but he needs to know situations. On that final drive for them before the touchdown, 4th and 11, he decides to throw it away. I understand he was under duress. Throw the ball to someone. Try to make a play. Try to pick up the first down. Throwing it away was a give-up play in a situation where you needed a touchdown, down 2 scores.
I think if you just look at the two, compare the quarterbacks back to back there, you have Mahomes, who stayed calm, cool, relaxed under pressure. And look, he in the first half didn't have a very good first half. This game was a lot closer than it should have been. And then Jalen Hurts kind of just consistently was okay. Again, numbers are one thing. You look at the numbers and you see that Mahomes threw for 5 touchdowns and 278 yards, but they relied on their running game a lot, which then leads me to the question of, all right, are we starting to give too much of a free pass to Jonathan Gannon?
Yeah, Gannon's defensive scheme was not ideal out there. Patrick Mahomes was finding ways to pick him apart. They weren't getting much pressure on him except an occasional play here and there, but as soon as the defense makes a play, they give up a bigger play for the Chiefs offense to continue to move the ball and continue to move the football down the football field. So it's one of those things you need to build them on. You need to be more consistent. You need to be better design. You have to design your defense a lot better. There's on that one touchdown, I think not the last one, the Tyreek, one of the other ones. Look, he was in cover 2, man to man, and Patrick Mahomes picked it apart. So this defense, there's a lot of good quarterbacks moving forward, which we knew.
Right. And, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs and you don't exactly think, the rushing game, but they rushed for 200 yards today on the Philadelphia Eagles. 200 rushing, 271 passing, 471 total offensive yards. You don't exactly expect the Kansas City Chiefs to gash you with the run, but there's Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a 100-yard game on 14 carries. On the flip side of that, Miles Sanders touched the ball 7 carries, 13 yards.
He tripled his total from last week.
Combine that with 3 catches for 34 yards, and you are giving your best offensive weapon 10 touches.
Yeah, you need to find a way to get Miles Sanders more involved in the offense. I understand that you're going up against a high-powered offense like the Kansas City Chiefs, and you need to try to put points on the board, but it started off nicely. They started off with a more well-balanced attack. They were getting him involved. They were keeping the Kansas City defense on edge a bit, but it was one of those things. I don't know. Sirianni, I understand it's only 4 games, but he's going to start losing some trust for this fan base going forward. This is now 3 straight games where they had a better showing this week, but once again, you're not getting your playmaker involved, and he's ultimately the guy calling the plays, and he's someone that has not had experience calling plays going to the season. So, of course, a lot of the blame and a lot of the focus point is going to be on Sirianni, since he's basically doing the defense's job for them by taking away their playmakers out of the game.
See, I don't think that all of that's a fair assessment. We do talk about getting the playmakers the ball, and they got the 7 catches to Devontae Smith. They got him. Yeah. They got him the ball, and he was as productive as possible. He definitely stepped out of bounds on the one touchdown catch.
He was clearly out.
He was clearly out of bounds. So I do see them getting him the ball, but the not using Miles Sanders, I mean, that's a drastic problem.
Yep.
They're relying on Kenny Gainwell. Look, Kenny Gainwell he's a rookie. He's doing okay. He averaged 10 yards per carry. He touched the ball 3 times. I think that once again, you have an offensive line who was going against a beaten up defensive line, and they just didn't rely on the run game. The argument will be the RPOs. Okay, fine. So they ran the RPO and they got. I think Richard's comment here saying this is Walmart brand coaching. I think that's pretty accurate. It's very plain. It's very vanilla. It is not exciting at all, and it's also not good in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and to Johnny's point, I know Johnny keeps on saying don't fire everyone up in arms about firing the coach, firing Gannon, moving on from Jalen Hurts. We're through 4 weeks. There's gonna be a lot of growing pains. There's gonna be a lot of issues, and he's gonna look like a rookie head coach. You're gonna go through that. It's his first year with the job, but you just hope that he would learn from those mistakes, learn going forward, building up a better game plan, and having a better production out there and putting his players out there to succeed, which I felt he did a little bit better Jalen Hurts this week than we've seen the last couple of weeks. But how can you only give Miles Sanders 10 touches in this game? We complained so much last year with Doug Peterson. The fact that Miles Sanders is only getting 12, 13 touches a game. This dude should be getting at least 15, 20 touches a game. And who knows what you can do with your offense. We might be getting some touchdowns out there instead of kicking for field goals. And ultimately, like we brought before, the penalties, that relies on coaching. Coaching needs to hold these players accountable for their dumb mistakes and making sure they're all on key and all on point when it comes to these pre-snap penalties, especially on the offense side of the football.
And that's the penalties are an interesting point because you look at a guy like Andre Dillard, who offensively had a really good game.
Yeah.
But he got called for, I think, 4 to 5 penalties. I know at least 3. I think he got called for a total of 4 penalties.
He got called for being an illegal man downfield.
Right. Like that's day one stuff. I don't understand how that doesn't get corrected.
Who knows? It's one of those things that they just have to go back to the drawing board, and hopefully we pray as Eagles fans that Sirianni's doing his job and that he's looking at this tape and finding ways to start holding these guys accountable. I understand he's a player's coach and he wants to be somewhat their best friend, and he wants to show these players as a new head coach that he has their backs. But on the other hand, you have to realize that Philadelphia, we don't like being a losing culture. We like going out there and winning football games, regardless if this is a rebuilding year or not. We want to go out there and win football games. And if we're losing games, but competitively, okay, we can accept that. We can accept the progressions. But the fact that we're having these boneheaded plays or boneheaded
Derek Barnett, yet again getting called for another one.
If these guys continue to do this, take them out of the game. Take them out of practice. Show them, hey, look, you're going to have these mistakes. Bench them. Put someone else in their spot and see if they can produce, because you're obviously not helping your team if you're going to continue to have these mistakes. I think Derek Barnett has more penalties this year than he does tackles or something along those lines.
I know he has more penalties in his career than he does career sacks, which is not ideal what you want as one of your top defensive line options.
No, especially for a first-round pick.
Right. I mean, and again, looking at some of the other things, Javon Hargrave had another very good game, but the entire defensive line got gashed over and over again. I think that Eric Wilson, for the most part, had a pretty good game. He had his interception. The linebacking core held Travis Kelce to basically nothing. But again, the reliance on the run game because they saw something. I think for me, we said that we want to see these Eagles get better week to week. So from last week to this week, they definitely played better. There is no denying that. No, but the issue is that the mistakes that are made are the same mistakes week to week. So there's getting better and putting out a better effort, putting up 30 points on the Kansas City Chiefs. It's good. I'm really going to say they put up 23 points on the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't really count this last touchdown. If I wasn't there to watch it, it was clearly way into garbage time. But the mistakes that are being made after a while, you either correct them or you don't, and you accept them. You either correct or accept. Right now, they are accepting Derek Barnett getting called for penalties all the time. Right now, they are accepting the offensive line getting called for pre-snap penalties. Right now, they are accepting that Miles Sanders shouldn't carry the ball more than 7 times in a game. These aren't things to accept. These are things to correct.
Yep. And once again, it comes down to Sirianni also. Look, the one thing we criticized in the last 2 weeks on the offensive side and defense side of football is in-game adjustments. And again, another week where we were in it, and the Kansas City Chiefs, especially Patrick Mahomes, they were picking apart our defense. Offensively, we were moving the football, but in the red zone, you kept on seeing the same mistakes and the same lack of execution. And it's one of those things that Sirianni, he needs to realize as the head coach that he needs to take the reins. And when he sees something not working, he needs to step up to his coaching staff and say, fix it, or I'm taking over, or something along those lines. Something needs to be done, because we're now week 4 into the season, and we continue to see the same mistakes over and over again instead of seeing those mistakes lessen.
Jeff, I don't know if you saw this, but I noticed today Nick Sirianni as a coach who doesn't necessarily understand the rules. No. On the pick play, which was an obvious pick. Look, it was a soft call. It was a very soft call. But it was a textbook offensive pass interference. He lost his shit on the sideline. And then on the Devontae Smith one, again, another idea of points coming off the board. He yells at the same exact ref. Devontae Smith could not be the first guy to touch the ball. It was textbook. Does Nick Sirianni not know the rules in the NFL?
I don't know. I think he was trying to argue on that play that he was pushed out, but it was clear.
Doesn't matter.
But it was clear. I think if you're pushed out, you can come back as long as you come back in the play right away. But the
you can't. You have to come back in. That's the rule. You have to reestablish yourself. You still can't be the first guy to touch the ball.
Yeah, he took
right, but you still can't be the first guy to touch the ball.
Okay. But yeah, look, I get it. He's the head coach. He's going to fight for his players. He's going to try to go out there and like justify, even though it was the right call. He wants to go out there and show his players that he's fighting for them and that he's gonna stand up for them when, I don't know. He has to see in his eyes, or the guys upstairs had to tell him it was the right call. But and I guess it was a soft call by JJ, but you need to design that a little bit better, disguise that a little bit better. And then people are like, well, he wasn't the designated receiver. That doesn't matter in the NFL. If he's going down there and
block in the direction of an oncoming, yeah,
exactly.
I don't know. It just to me it read a misleading, like I'm fired up and look how angry I am, but in reality, it's no. These calls were correct. Everything that happened was correct. You got to do a better job. One of our biggest complaints or concerns about Devontae Smith was he was going to get pushed around in today's NFL. Great. He had 120 yards catching, but he allowed himself to get pushed out of bounds.
Yep.
You know what I mean? J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is the best lineman we have currently. The problem is that we pay him wide receiver money. These are things, again, you have to correct or accept. And right now we have accepted that J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is just a blocking wide receiver. Not even close to a target. Not even close to a target.
Which is why you're seeing him in the slot a lot more, especially on those outside runs. They trust his blocking ability. So by you seeing J.J. Arcega-Whiteside on the field, you're basically giving it away to the opposing defense that probably 9 times out of 10, they're probably running the football because they know how a quality blocker he is down the field. So, or a screenplay, which I'm happy that they were able to go back to that a little more. I'm glad that Sirianni realized that part of their offense has worked so well this season that he, unlike last week where you saw more of the vertical passing game, they were trying to get guys open more in space. They were trying the short routes, the short slant routes, which I was happy about, but that gets limited. That's the only thing you're going to have. As you saw in the red zone, you can't execute that in the red zone. You need to find other plays to make sure that you're punching it in
the red zone. Touchdown. The red zone was a big problem today.
Yeah.
The red zone was a big problem today. They were not successful in there. And I don't know if it was because they were too close. There's always that concern that you're too close, so your scope of what you can see, or the play calls were bad, but they struggled drastically in the red zone yet again. You can't have a team that moves the ball like that and then struggles to get those last 5-6 yards. It can't be the case.
Especially going up against this Kansas City offense. We knew going into it, and Sirianni knew the fact that he was willing to go for it on 4th and goal a few times. Well,
I didn't like that.
Well, I'm saying I didn't like it either. Not the first one. The second one, when they were able to punch it in and they had to call it back because of a penalty. But they realized, like, look, we're not going to beat this team kicking field goals. We need to get in the end zone. We need to be a little bit more aggressive because kicking field goals and even kicking field goals with Jake Elliott is not a guarantee, which this year he's been better off than last season. But just his past history, there's no guarantee he's making that field goal anyway.
I just think if you were going to hire a coach that is, I'm going to use the phrase run happy, but that doesn't do it justice. If you were going to hire a coach that is run happy, that goes for it on 4th down, that doesn't really focus on defense, that ignores the running game, why fire Doug Peterson at all? You already had this exact situation.
Because Nick Sirianni is willing to listen to Howie and listen to Jeffrey Lurie's criticism on how to run this team. Where Doug Peterson, after some time, did not like the meddling. Shut up, wife.
For me, I want to give Sirianni the benefit of the doubt, but right now it seems that we downgraded to keep the same coach.
We did.
That's what it seems like to me, that we downgraded to keep the exact same type of coach.
That, and a lot of people felt, look, that Doug got too much credit. That a lot of people felt that Super Bowl run is because of Frank Wright. So it's yet to be known. We haven't seen Doug Peterson as a head coach somewhere else yet, but I agree. I just kind of felt that Doug Peterson, I know he was legit, technically fired. I honestly felt he quit. I felt he was a guy that had enough of the organization, the way they try to pick into things and try to get into things. And he did, as a head coach, they hired him to do a job, and it was just difficult to do. Which Sirianni, he wanted the opportunity. He's willing to do whatever it takes as a guy that has never had head coaching experience before. As we brought up before, there's only 32 head coaching jobs in the National Football League, and a lot of times it doesn't come up. And he was a guy that was not on a lot of people's radar. So the fact that you can't blame the guy for taking the position, you only can blame management for going in this type of direction. And yeah, it's yet to be seen. I know Johnny keeps on bringing up like Andy Reid struggled, Chip Kelly struggled, Doug struggled. So yeah, there's guys that have struggled in the past, but there's a difference between these teams and those teams that you really can't compare. I'm not a big person that compares prior events.
No, this is the guy.
Yeah.
This is the guy. I mean, now to give Andy Reid his credit, congratulations on being the first coach in NFL history to win 100 games with two different franchises. I mean, that is
remarkable.
That's exceptional. I wish it hadn't been number 100 against us. I think that
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think big takeaways. I think losing Brandon Graham was a bigger thought than we realized, because the Eagles defense has just not looked the same.
Yeah, especially since we keep on bringing up his name, but Ryan Kerrigan, at least he was on the stat sheet this week, I think. He actually got a tackle, but you bring in this guy for what, $6 million to be that veteran leader and a guy that has been here before. He has not shown anything once again to be that leader or be any type of difference maker in the pass rushing of this part of this defense. And it's disappointing. And it's where do we go next? That's one position that this defense has relied so heavily on to be the strength of this defense. And it's going to get worse from here. We have a lot of tough quarterbacks and a lot of tough teams that we're going to have to get pressure on that we have not shown we've been able to do.
I'm on Twitter right now, and the Birds Blitz at the Birds Blitz just shared out that there were 0 punts today.
Yeah, first time ever, I think.
Fourth time in NFL history that there was a game with 0 punts. I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's pretty cool. That means...
But again, yeah. Right now, so the updated NFC East standings, because I know some people really, truly care about that and think that the Philadelphia Eagles can make a run for it. The Cowboys are 3-1, are obviously the class of the NFC East right now.
They are showing they are legit. When Dak's healthy, they're going to be forced to be reckoned with. They just beat the undefeated Carolina Panthers, which I know a lot of people didn't feel they were legitimate 3-0, but 3-0 is 3-0. So kudos to the Cowboys.
The football team is 2-2, and then the Eagles and the Giants are fighting at the bottom for their 1-3 records.
Did the Giants win today?
They did not.
Okay, so they're still 0-4.
No, I'm sorry. They must have won today. Yes, they are 1-3.
Yeah, they played the Saints.
I don't know. Again, for me, looking at this team, this Eagles team moving forward, look, we knew they were not going to win this game today. We were aware of that fact. We wanted to make sure that they put out a better effort. I think they did those things. They got to get the penalties under control. They got to fix their defense. They actually have to game plan well. They have to run the football.
Yep.
Is that thing on? They have to run the football. Having Miles Sanders touch the ball 10 times today total is not a good use of his talent. He is not going to stay in. He will not stay in Philadelphia.
And I understand we're banged up along the offensive line. We had one of our 5 original starters from week 1 in there, only being Jason Kelsey. So I understand maybe Sirianni didn't have as much confidence in those guys to open lanes for Miles Sanders, but the Kansas City Chiefs, they were without Frank Clark. They're one of the worst rush defenses in the National Football League this year. That should be your pinpoint of weakness right there, that I'm going to attack that weakness. I need to go out there and at least try to run the football. And we thought that was going to happen. That first drive, we saw a balanced offensive attack. We saw Miles Sanders use. We saw a little bit more of the short game. We were starting to chip away piece by piece to move those chains. And then after a couple of drives, it went all out the window again. Once again, stick to the game plan. Stick to what's going to work. Expose your opponent's weaknesses. That's all we have heard from Sirianni all offseason going into this year. I'm going to game plan to expose opponents' weaknesses. And we have not seen that for 3 straight weeks now. We have seen him abandon what works, going to a pass-happy offense. And I get it. He wants to try to show everyone, I think, that he has faith in Jalen Hurts, that Jalen Hurts can be the guy. But that's a lot of pressure on a young quarterback, an inexperienced quarterback, that's being thrown into the fire. We saw that last year, too, under Doug Peterson when he was thrown into the fire. Right now, Jalen Hurts is a guy that cannot handle pressure when called upon, and we need to take that pressure off of him, like you said, by using the running game. We have 3 quality running backs. We have Kenneth Gainwell has shown that he can be a playmaker. We have Miles Sanders. Boston Scott has shown he can make plays in this league. So why not use all 3 of them? Use the 3-headed monster that we used to have in the early days of Andy Reid and gash it down opponents' throats to take the pressure off your young quarterback, Jalen Hurts, because he has shown that he cannot handle that type of pressure.
Right, and I agree with you. So Nick Sirianni is taking the stage right now. We are going to play a little bit of his post-game press conference before we wrap up our side of things. Yep, hold on. It helps if I put on the right. Give me 1 second, friends.
If they stopped us on 4-3.
There we go.
The conversation with the ref, because if you're going to kick the field goal, there's no need to take the timeout.
Yep. I'll keep that conversation between us. But yeah, I'm not going to make an excuse about anything, and so I got to be better.
You offensive foul on J. Jaw on that touchdown. What was your conversation like there? Did you get an explanation for why that was called?
Yeah, they thought that he pushed him downfield and they thought it was DPI. And you know what? They got a tough job. The referees have a tough job. We got a tough job. Players have a tough job. They're trying to get it right. I know they're trying to get it right. They're trying to do their best to get it right. And sometimes they do, and sometimes I don't. I'm not saying one way or the other. If they got that right, I'll keep my opinion to myself. But they got a tough job.
But you didn't keep your opinion to yourself. You showed everyone what your opinion was.
Right before the second half, when short pass to Kenneth Gainwell, you didn't call timeout there.
Mm-hmm. That our we do a ton of studying of all those situations throughout each week, and we felt like we could get a play off that was going to go out of bounds for that. So we wanted to save that timeout. All those times right there, we could save a timeout right there, and I'll double down on that call. It didn't work. It didn't work that time, and he got a sack, and they got and it was a long thing, but I'll stick with that call all day because I've put myself in that position 1,000 times when I've watched it. So because of where we snapped that thing, if it got a little bit lower, then I would have clocked it or called a timeout. But to have that timeout right there when what an NFL defense will do is if you don't have a timeout, play a sideline defense where now it's making it almost impossible to get to the sideline. So I stick with that call, I stand by that call. It didn't work, and I got to sit by that.
The rush play accounted for the poor protection.
I don't, because we've run that play a bunch in my past, not just here in Philadelphia. We've run it a lot in Indianapolis and San Diego. When I was in Kansas City, that was our out of bounds play, and you know what? It didn't work this time.
Big picture, what's your assessment of this game? What's the primary emotion you walk away?
Yeah, I mean, you're upset. You're furious that you go to 1-3. But a lot of it, we can also see that there's some things that they're to build on there. The self-inflicted wounds have to stop. And I know I sound the same, but it's still true. We gotta stop the self-inflicted wounds.
But then you have to do something about it.
Ourselves in holes and with penalties. The guys did a good job. We won the turnover battle. Our defense took it away. We didn't give it away.
Wow.
They forced another fumble on special teams, but so there's some good things obviously right there. We got to do things better both offensively and defensively, and special teams wise. There was one time we started inside the 15, so we have to use this tape and get better from it. My message was really never going to change, win or lose. That we got to take we got to make our corrections and get better from it. But there's a lot of guys that battled their tails off today, and there's a lot of guys that played good football today, and you're happy with that, but obviously you're never satisfied, and you're always upset when you lose.
Executing
in red zone situations. What's been the problem with that? That was the case also in the San Francisco game. It was also the case in this game.
Good question.
Yeah, we had the one in San. I think we were 5 of 6 before this game here today. And we had the one in San Francisco where we weren't good enough on. And then today, 3 of 6 when you're playing a team like that, you got to convert there. And so it's the plays I'm calling. It's the lack of execution, but I'll always have it start with me. And when the plays don't work,
do better.
That's on me.
Yeah, call better plays.
So I got to call better plays. I got to put our guys in better positions to win. And everyone's going to look at themselves and on all those plays too and say, I could have done that better on this play, or I could have done this better on this play.
He does sound like Andy Reid.
It's a team. It's the greatest team sport there is. It starts with me. I got with
a little bit of rah-rah.
That's on me. I got to come up with better scheme and put the guys in position to make a play.
When did you find out about Lane, and how tough was it to adjust in the last minute with the Champions?
I found out, a couple hours before the game. I think Jeff Stoutland and Shane Steichen just did a phenomenal job just getting everybody ready to go. And it's no secret, Jeff Stoutland, our offensive line coach, he's got everybody ready to play in all these different scenarios if different scenarios happen. Well, we were proposed with one of those scenarios today. I thought the offensive line battled. I thought they played really well, and that's just a tribute
to proposed with one of them
of how good of a football coach he is and how he's gotten the guys better.
That didn't make sense, right?
As a whole,
yeah, I wonder if he's bringing up
with
COVID
their fundamentals,
situation.
and he mentally prepares them. And then just a tribute to the guys that stepped in
and
played. They really played good.
Well, their scenario would be
all those guys. I got to watch the tape to tell you. Pardon me, to tell you exactly how they played, but I thought they battled. They battled really. They played their tails off. They played hard. They played physical. We got a lot of warriors right there in that group. So I thought they did a good job in the circumstances that they were.
Yeah, one big takeaway is there were no injuries.
I'm not going to discuss any like. No, just a personal situation, and I'm just not going to discuss that right now.
You mentioned some of the self-inflicted stuff, the illegal man downfield stuff. That's kind of a tightrope between the quarterback getting it out, the offensive line realizing. How do you kind of deal with that?
Well,
the
referees they're calling that pretty hard this year, and probably a little bit harder than they have in the past.
Couldn't fix it.
And so we have to adjust, and we can't, and that starts with me. We got to adjust how we're blocking it. We got to adjust how we're teaching the blocking schemes to not allow the guy, and how we're reading it. So, or just don't call it. I mean, that's what we're going to have to do, because you obviously can't shoot yourself in the foot. So that's my fault. That's my, I got to get better at that with with that. It's not Andre's fault that he was downfield on that one, because the timing was pretty good. And the referees, I thought, did a good job of refereeing it.
A couple more guys.
Touchdowns came off the board because of penalties. From a big picture perspective, why is this keep happening?
Yeah, I mean, they had the PI on that I answered about, JJ, I think, from you, and then the illegal man downfield that I just answered, and the other one was the guy out of bounds. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess I answered the first two. The last one right here. He ran out of room. I said the same thing with Jalen on the other one, that he's got to work a better release at the line of scrimmage. Devontae will be the first one to tell you that, to save the quarterback room. There was some hand fighting, some pushing. Like I said, referees have a tough job, and there was hand fighting on both sides. So I don't blame that on him. We just got to save room. That's a technique thing, and then my answer on the other two. I'll answer yours too.
We know the Chiefs are a very good offense. How do you think the defense performed today?
Not well.
Yeah,
they hung up a 42 spot.
They got a lot of good players, and obviously, Mahomes is a really good player. He's an NFL MVP for a reason. Coach Reid is a really good play caller. Coach Bieniemy does a great job getting his guys ready. So, and then you see Kelsey and Hill. I mean, they got really good playmakers, and so that was a tough challenge for our defense today. You're always going to look when a team rushes for that many yards, you're always going to look at that and say, we got to stop the run. Because they didn't, on that. So that's going to always be the first emphasis. I obviously need to watch the tape on a lot of that. A lot of times I'm looking down at my call sheet too to see what I'm going to call next. But I'll have a better answer for you. But anytime you rush for that many yards, you're going to have to improve in that area. Go ahead. I'm going to add one more.
What did you think of Jalen's performance?
Yeah, I kind of talked to somebody in there. I just said that's one of the better quarterback performances I've seen, and I've been around a lot of good quarterbacks.
I mean, I don't disagree with him. I think he had a decent
Andrew Luck.
game.
I mean,
he
he battled. He made good decisions with the football. He got out of trouble when there was trouble. He made good checks. He made good reads. I thought that's the best I've seen him in practice. That's the best I've seen him in a game.
I'm gonna cut Nick Sirianni off here. He said everything he needed to say.
I'm angry.
All right. Well, you get to talk tomorrow about it.
I know, I will.
So, all right. Again, if you are just joining us, we are doing our final wrap up on the post game live. Eagles fall to the Chiefs 42-30. It was 42-23 when I walked outside, so the last touchdown doesn't count. Good on Greg Ward for catching another one. Neat for him. We're right back at it the rest of the week. Tomorrow night, Chips and Dish. I think we're going 9 o'clock again, 9:15, whatever I decide to do. You know, I get to push record when I want. So, Tuesday is Burning Bridges. Wednesday, we are going to talk all about this and talk to a Carolina Panthers podcaster.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that all those words belong together.
They do.
Thursday is Across the Pitch, our union show. Friday is Birds, Beers, and BS. And then Sunday, we are right back at the West End to talk Eagles, Panthers. Jeff, any final words for the people?
No. Look, this was a game that we expected. Like I said earlier, it's still a sour taste in your mouth. Just the way this game spiraled out of control a little bit. That we were still in the thick of things, but it's time to move on. It's not dwell in the past. Move forward to the Carolina Panthers, which they came off a loss this week, so they're a little vulnerable. The game plan is out there on how to beat the Carolina Panthers. So hopefully Nick Sirianni is studying up quite a bit when they travel to Carolina next week.
Why would? We'll talk more about this on Wednesday, but I don't think he's studying up on game plans on how to beat teams. I think he's studying up on how not to jump a pre-snap penalty.
Well,
on that lovely, happy note, I am Chip. That side is Jeff. We will catch you guys tomorrow on the rest of the way. Make sure you are liking, subscribing, sharing. And as we end every podcast here on AATSN and All About the Birds,